Hello and welcome, fellow Wasteland survivors. Nasty Bones here, and this video is the first video in a three-part series on how I build. Not so much how I build, but how I use these different objects to manipulate other objects into doing things that I want them to do, like increasing the height, decreasing the height, the angles, inserting into things, and so on. Now, most of these items that are placed out here are items that I use while I'm building, especially if I'm not using mods. And the reason I'm doing this first video is because a lot of these things you kind of really need to know if you're going to follow me in the rest of this series. So, let's kick back, let's see what I do, and maybe we might see something that you were not aware of before. Okay, the first thing that we need to do is start with the very basics. And the way I look at it is you really need to learn how to crawl before you can walk. You need to learn how to walk before you can run. And you need to learn how to run before you can get away from the cops. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with kind of a basic snapping tool. Now you can do this with pretty much any floor in the vanilla and DLCs, but I'm just going to use these quarter floors to show what I'm getting at. Also, another thing I can show you is how many floors it takes to reach the top of a vanilla wall, which is actually 16. And we're just going to kind of look there, and you can see the 16th one is up on top. And I'm going to take a second and just pop out the extra excess that we have here. Now, since the DLCs come out, I don't really use a snapping tool as much as I used to back before DLCs, but I do still use them once in a while. And that's why it's important for me to show you guys this and how it works. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to snap out or take out and place into the workbench every other floorboard. And this allows me to snap other floors to it with a little bit better ease. If I didn't take these out, really the only floor I could snap to it would be the top one or the bottom one. And sometimes even the bottom one would be very hard to get a floor to snap to. Also, what I want to do here is show you that it is 16 floors to the top of a vanilla wall. And we'll take a quick look here so you can see how it is a little bit easier to snap other floors to it. And this is a great way to manipulate the height that you want to build with. Stairs, different wall heights, different floor heights, and so on. Now, even though this isn't about concrete, I'm going to pull out this concrete pillar. The reason is I'm going to use group select to bring it over to a vanilla wall so we can see exactly how well this lines up. Now, one thing you need to know, this concrete pillar is something that is absolutely a godsend. Not only can you group select with it, but you can actually sink things into the ground with it, which I'm sure by now most of you are aware of. It's really neat to put junk fences in the ground or other objects, and you can do it with ease using the concrete pillar. And as you can see there, that 16th floor is the top of the vanilla wall. Now, the next thing I want to discuss real quick is these stairs, these steps. Now, what's great about these is they don't actually snap at the bottom. Floors do snap at the top, but it won't snap to something at the bottom. It's not going to be very handy if you're wanting to align something up with a lower floor or a ceiling, but it is very handy when you want to put something in that you don't want it to be snapping to a floor. It's about 8 floors high, and this is a great way to start off with the snapping tool at that height instead of ground height, and it'll save you a little bit of resources. This one does about the same thing. The only difference is it's about 3 floors high, and I've built quite a few things with these. They do come in very handy. And even though I don't use them as much as I used to, because I know how they work, they are still part of my arsenal. And I do pull them out and use them once in a while for different things that I'm trying to do. Now, let's talk about this ladder. This is the best of both worlds. And as you know, it does snap to the bottom as well as snapping to the top. Now, there are a couple of things we need to take note when using this ladder. I do use this ladder still a lot to this day in my builds. And there are several reasons why, which we'll go over a couple here in the next couple of segments. First of all, I'm doing this real quick so that we can compare it with another type of stair that is actually in the vanilla as well. And as you can see, it's slightly different even though it's actually about the same thing. Now, here's the differences. Because it doesn't snap in the middle of the board or a quarter board, it actually snaps in the front of it. It has actually pushed the upper snap point forward about a quarter of a board. And also, it's one board higher than what the vanilla wall or upper shack floor connected to a vanilla wall would be. And we're going to take a look at that real quick. And as you can see, it looks like it's about 3 boards high. Well, it's not. It's 2 boards and 1 roof or 1 shack roof high. And here in a second, I'm going to go ahead and snap an upper floor shack to this vanilla wall, and we'll see the difference in the height. Now, as you can see, the upper shack floor is a roof and a floor together, and I'll go ahead and snap a regular floor to the top of this. Now, I do try to see and show you the difference here, but it's a little hard to see from these angles. So let me go ahead and throw another floor up, and then you can get a better idea. And as you can see, it actually is 1 floor higher. Now, it's not exactly 1 floor higher. A little bit of the second floor does sink into the first floor. But because of the offset, this comes in extremely handy. And let me explain why. Because of the offset, both forward and one a little bit higher, one of the great uses for this is how to build some stairs. Now, in this tutorial, I'm not going to be showing you very much on how I build stairs with this. I am going to have a video coming out with several techniques I use to make stairs, and some of them are a little easier than this. But some of the things that I do in this next couple of videos is going to actually be linked to how I do this. So I'm really wanting to show you this real quick, so that way you're not confused why things are working out the way they are as I'm doing them. Okay, so now the first thing that you want to do is pick out your starting point. Go ahead and put a board down, whichever you want, a full board or a quarter board. This works with both. And go ahead and place your ladder in. Once you do that, take the shack staircase or shack well staircase, whatever that thing's called, connect it to the top of the ladder, and it'll actually raise it up about the 1 floor in height. Then go ahead and place in a couple of boards, so that way you have another actual board to snap your ladder to. And then bring the shack stairwell back, snap it up to the ladder, and take another board, I call them markers, mark your staircase, and go ahead and place in the others. And as you can see, this is how quick you can actually build some stairs with this. This is a really good technique, a quick technique for building stairs. You don't have to use a snapping tool. You can just go ahead and use this technique to build you some real quick stairs. And it's very, very useful in this and several other types of applications. And I think we've seen enough of this, so let's just go ahead and kind of finish it off real quick. I'm pretty sure with this little bit of a tutorial here, you guys get a pretty good idea of what I'm talking about. And now that we've got our stairs or our markers in, all we have to do is pull out whatever it is that we want to make our stairs out of. In this case, I'm going to use a shack foundation. And you just go ahead and snap them to your markers, and real quick you'll have some stairs. As you can see, there's a little bit of a snapping issue there, but you just move around a little bit and that shouldn't be too much of an issue. And there you go, you have some perfectly aligned stairs. It took no time at all. Now, there's one thing I want to talk about real quick before we start this part, and that's called build order. Now, I will explain it a little more in detail as we go, but usually in your build order, you want to start from the bottom and work your way up. But because of this stair and how it works, using it for building these stairs with this upper shack staircase, you can actually reverse the build order and build downwards as well. And this is actually a little easier. Now, let's say that you have a floor that you've actually already built that's higher than another floor. Instead of trying to match the floor that is your lower floor up to the floor that is your higher floor that you've just put in, this is a great way to actually build downwards towards your bottom floor to match up. Because sometimes when you build from the bottom up, it won't quite match up with the floor that you have in that's a little higher. And this is actually a little easier. Now the difference is instead of snapping in the ladder first, I'm actually snapping in the shack stairwell. Then I go ahead and put the ladder to it, place a marker at the bottom of the stairs, and bring a couple of more quarter boards around. I'll go ahead and take these three out, move the ladder, bring the shack stairwell down to the level we just put in, and go ahead and place another set of markers around. Once again, take those three out, remove the ladder, move the stairwell ladder, and replace it back with the regular ladder. This is speeded up a little bit, but you can still see that it takes hardly no time at all to build these steps with this. And now that we're completed, I'll just go ahead and put them back in the workbench, get them out of the way. And once again, just choose whatever it is that you want to use as your stairs, which I'm going to go ahead and use these shack foundations again. I like them. They have concrete in them. You can snap them into one another. And other floors will work for this as well. There are some concrete floors that are similar. There are floors in the barn section that are about the same, and they'll all do this with this type of a technique. And once again, I'll just go ahead and throw in a quick floor here at the beginning, and you can see that in just no time whatsoever we've actually built a really nice staircase right up to where the point of where we actually started. Okay, let's move on and let's talk about the vanilla walls for a minute here. What I've done is I've snapped in upper shack floor. And as you know, nothing will snap to the top of a vanilla wall other than a roof. So this is the only way you can put another floor in. But when you do, it leaves a gap where the roof would actually be. And let's say you want to build a multi-story building using these walls, but you don't want that gap in there. Now there's a couple of ways that you can actually get rid of this. I'm only going to show you in this tutorial the easiest way using vanilla. Now when we move to concrete, there's actually another way which is really even easier than this, but we'll discuss that in the next video. So what I've done is I've taken this shack foundation and snapped it to the pre-existing floor that was there. If you hold down A and your left bumper at the same time, you can actually move objects straight up and down. And I'm still a little bit high, so let's move it down a little bit more. And then we'll take our floor, snap it to the shack foundation, and then we'll go ahead and drop the wall down. And it snaps to the top of the floor, and as you can see, now we have no gap. And this is an extremely quick and easy way to maneuver or manipulate these walls up and down. And once again, which I'm sure you already know, nothing will snap to the top of those walls other than a roof or the upper shack floor, which is why they gave that to us. Now, what I'm going to show you here is another way to manipulate your floor level. And using the same technique by holding A and the left bumper down, I can move the shack foundation any height that I want, and I don't have to use a snapping tool or a ladder or other things that we've been discussing in this video. Now let's go ahead and discuss angles of walls. Let's say we want to build something with about a 45-degree angle. Now there are two ways to do this. The first way is the way I'm doing it right now. If you'll grab your object, look down at the ground, you can actually place it where you want without it trying to snap to a point that it wants to, which would actually be the end of the wall or the floor, like it just tried to right there. But there's actually another way that's easier. When you do it the first way I was showing you, your view is very limited and sometimes you just can't get it in where you want to. So what I did is I put in an upper shack floor and snapped a couple of shack roofs to it. And what we're doing is we're doing the same thing that an upper shack floor does, other than we're changing the floor angle of it. And so we're going to go ahead and use this quarter floor. Now any floor will actually work to do this. I like the quarter floors because we're a little closer and we can actually visually see better what we're trying to do and our angle. Now I'll go ahead and make a little adjustment here, get it as close as I can. Then all I have to do is just take out the floor shack roofs and snap another marker up to it. And now we're ready to actually put in our upper shack floor. Now once again, I'm showing you that the walls just will not snap to a floor. So we'll put that out of the way. And now we'll just make room for our upper shack floor to go in. And we'll do this by moving our markers out the width of that particular floor. And I thought it was connected to this ladder, but it's not. And I look around, I don't see it. I must have put it in inventory, and yeah, I did. There it is. And we'll just go ahead and snap the upper shack floor to it and grab our wall, and now bang, there you go. I use this technique still a lot to this day. This is a great way to precisionally align up a specific angle that you're trying to get, and it creates a very tight fit. Now, for our final segment for this video, I'd like to back up a step and talk about our stacked walls. I want to make a corner here. Now, it's no brainer how to snap in the walls for the first story, but it's the second story we're going to have an issue with. And there's actually two ways to go ahead and do this. Now, if these were warehouse or the factory walls, they'll actually snap to themselves in 45-degree angles, but the vanilla walls will not. So what I did is I added on an extra wall, snapped a floor to it, snapped a second floor into the corner, and then that allows us to go ahead and put a wall on it. Then all we have to do is just go ahead and use the floor on the first level to snap our corner in. But now let's say we want to make a corner here instead of going all the way to the end of the floor. The second way to do this would actually be to snap an upper shack floor in. And we can do this on the top floor or any other floors in between our stories. And then we can go ahead and snap our walls onto it. Now what's going to happen is we don't have a wall on our bottom story. And we can't actually snap something into it because there's nothing there to snap on. Now, I can do it the first way that we just did it, or I can go ahead and use this upper shack floor, and I'm going to do that because I want to show you another thing that happens. When you put the wall in, we have gone back to having the gap between the two walls. But all you have to do is just click on it, it'll pop up out of the floor, and it'll touch itself to the second story wall. Then we just go ahead and snap in the other wall, and we actually have now created our square. Super simple, super easy. You guys probably know this, but I do use these techniques quite a bit while I'm building. And that's the whole point of what this video was all about, is showing you several things that I do that I still even use to this day. Now, I hope you join me for my second video that's coming right out after this, and we're going to see how the vanilla walls work with the concrete walls, and we'll even find out what this ladder's all about that's sticking out there. Well, that about wraps up the first video in my three-part series on how I build. Now, if there was something here that was a little confusing, please don't hesitate to leave me a comment. I'll try to elaborate on it a little better. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. I'd love to share more of my content with you as it comes out. Alright everybody, once again, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. And until next time, everybody, stay safe and have a great day.